Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review Hell's Kitchen Season 23, Episode 2. And I paid attention to this episode a lot more. Thank you very much. Last episode, I don't know what it was like. I don't know if I wasn't feeling well, or I don't know if it was just a mediocre episode and I really couldn't, none of the names registered. But I purposefully, paid attention to the names as much as possible, even though a lot of them still mean nothing to me, because we've only seen them, for this short amount of time. So this episode started off, they did a punishment pass challenge, which I think that if I did the punishment pass challenge, I wouldn't even use the pass on myself. I would wait until later on in the competition when you need to have an alliance with someone, possibly, and I would give someone else the punishment pass so that basically they would save me and not have me get sent home. That's what I would do personally. But the women have a really easy time putting up 3 dishes because they all made these dishes and they have to put up 3 to be judged by Chef Gordon. And the men, though, right off the bat, the blue team, the men's team, they are having trouble figuring out which 3 dishes. In particular, Egypt was arguing for his own dish to be put up. And it was one of those things where, okay, is this like a, what was that bitch called? the one, Elise. Is this an Elise type of situation where his dish is really bad and they're probably right to keep it back? Or was it actually not a good decision and they really missed out? Well, we get to find out, thankfully. I was really glad that at the end we got to find out what the quote-unquote bottom dishes were. I think that Gordon should do that every season. Just like in MasterChef, where we don't get to see all the dishes, at the end where they do the top 3 best and worst. I think that it would be a really fun addition to get to see these dishes that don't actually get nominated. So Brandon ended up winning the punishment pass, and honestly, it means nothing to me right now. For better or for worse. And Megan, oh, no, that's not important. But I would also like to point out, all of these dishes looked really, really good. In particular, I really liked how the tequila flambe halibut dish looked. I really don't like halibut or cod or these kind of bland, boring white fishes. I prefer salmon, tuna, and then maybe trout. I know that trout is white too, but I'm not a fan of halibut. But this was actually my favorite dish of the night. It actually made me want to eat halibut. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but I thought that looked really good. And it was made by Magali Sahali. And I'm going to call her that because if you guys don't know, there used to be this clothing magazine called Sahali or something, and Safi used to order from them a lot, and then they closed down. And so I've never heard the name Magali before. It's kind of a pretty name, but yeah. So many great dishes, and then Wit wins the punishment pass. Again, it means nothing to me right now. And I know that that's a mean thing to say, but I don't know these people. Who cares? They throw a wrench in the second episode, though, and this wrench was kind of interesting because the punishment pass winners got to nominate the 2 worst dishes for each team so that a player might be going home. That's the part that I really didn't like, because I was like, that would really not be fair, in my opinion. If you brought all these people here and then you immediately send one of them home because their first challenge dish wasn't up to par. Like, that would really be crappy. So I was really glad that he did not end up sending anyone home. In fact, it was so funny because Gordon loved all of these quote-unquote bottom dishes. He loved them. And he even schooled the women's team. My favorite part of the episode was when he was cutting into this pork chop, and the woman was like, well, the team thought that it was raw. And he was like, it's not raw, it's picked. There's nothing wrong with that. It was so funny. And I gotta be honest too, like, that's a thing that's like been over now. You know, the whole pork thing where it's okay now if the pork is a little bit pink in the middle. You know, like, that's a debate that has been gone for like years and years and years. I remember all the way back in 2018, and I remember it specifically because I remember the movie that I was watching that day, and a lot of other things as well. I kind of like, my memory kind of works in a way where, like, I piece things together like a puzzle. So I remember what I did that day because a movie, something else I was doing, something else I was doing, and something I was drinking. It all, like, pieces together. And I was making this pork chop. I was making it out on the grill, so I was grilling it. Sorry. I hate having to rush and do these reviews, you know, right after I watch the episode. But I feel like it's necessary to make sure that people will actually watch it, unfortunately. But I was grilling it, and I got really worried because after I grilled it, I cut it in half, and it was a little bit pink in the middle. And I was like, oh no, I grilled the pork chop and it's raw, and I won't be able to eat it, and I'm going to have to put it in the oven. The oven doesn't work, and Safi won't get it fixed. Yes, that was a thing that actually happened. For 2 years, we did not have a working oven because Safi didn't want to have to go to the trouble of calling the landlord, because the landlord was a fucking horrible family that horrible people. But I looked it up, and it's like, hey, it's okay if the pork is a little bit pink in the middle. It's perfectly fine. And that was like a mind-blowing experience because I was always raised on the belief that, like, it has to be 100% white. But it's like, no, that's not the ideal thing. So I was really surprised that, like, the women's team was so retarded that they thought that the pork was raw. That was stupid. And then Egypt, the only thing I didn't like about this was that the winner on the men's team, he was really, what should we call? He was really irritated with Egypt. So he purposefully threw him under the bus and put him in the bottom. Basically, because Egypt at the beginning of after they put up their dishes, Egypt had to nominate the 3 dishes, and he threw a little bit of shade because he was upset, and he was, you know, I would have been upset too. I would have been like, hey, this is the first challenge, and my dish isn't going up, but anyways. But once again, both dishes on the men's team were really good, and Gordon was like, what, WTF, why are these dishes even in the bottom? Now, the service I was really kind of nervous about because I was like, is this going to be a repeat of last year where the men's team does really terribly and the women's team does really good like the whole season? Well, no, both teams did pretty badly. The women's team, they made the first mistake of the night, and they gave Gordon raw scallops. And then they give him not enough scallops, even though they were all cooked and they were fine. I overestimated them, for sure. They are not going to be the force that the red team was in season 22. In fact, both teams do not look very good this season. And I think, now my allergies are bothering me. I think you guys can hear it too. I think that the whole head chef thing was a mistake. Because in trying to get like these quality chefs, have them all be head executive chefs, whatever, all of them are like alpha personas, and all of them are constantly trying to be number one. All of them are constantly fighting with each other. And that happened this whole episode in each team. It really just felt like this whole experiment, this gimmick, was a bad idea. Unfortunately, it feels like it's not going to work out. And I think it's going to get worse and worse as the season goes on, because people are going to get more desperate. I mean, the chefs in this season, they really think highly of themselves. Basically everyone there, and I'm not trying to say that they're bad people, but in terms of their characters and their personas, basically all of these chefs are like Jason from last season. All of them think that they're number one. Egypt is so full of himself. He's he's on like his own planet. You got that one girl we'll talk about at the end, Sahali Magali, and she promises to Gordon that she'll never be in the bottom again. Which is like the stupidest thing you can do. Because then when she inevitably gets in the bottom again, he's going to be like, "Oh, wait a second, Magali Sahali. You promised me you wouldn't be here. You're going home." And she'll be like, but Gordon, I still have fight in me. I'm going to say all the cliche things that every chef says when they're in the bottom. Come on. I bounce back. I can do better. I know I can do better. You know, she's going to say all the things, and then she's going to get sent home. The men's team, their first mistake was screwing up the risotto. This guy, the risotto looked really gross. He was putting water in it, and he wasn't even seasoning it. It just, ugh. And then Magali Sahali, she really screws up the salmon. In fact, the fish team as a whole, they screwed up the salmon over and over and over again. That was why they were in the bottom at the end of the episode. Rightfully so. I also gotta say, is it just me, or did you guys see that Michael kind of looks like he's related to Trevor? Or I guess Trev. When I look at Michael, I was like, hey, he kind of looks like Trev. Like, is he actually related to him? Because I wouldn't be surprised. And the men's team is taken to the back room already for raw lamb. And then Magali, too, she actually admits that she's basically giving up. She says, quote unquote, she's trying to swim. Which basically means she's just trying to, like, I don't know how you describe it, like cruise by. You know, like how those people back in school, they would just purposefully get a C in every single class and just, coast by. Magali basically admitted she was like trying to coast by. And then Egypt, I gotta say, he's really annoying. I really don't like him at all. He's gonna be the worst one this season. I'm making a bet right now. I didn't make any bets last episode. I didn't make any proclamations. Egypt is gonna be the worst player of the season. And both teams end up getting kicked out. And then another favorite part was when Gordon kicked out the last team. I think it was the men's team, because the women's team sucked, but the women's team sucked a little bit less than the men's team. The men's team really sucked. They sucked really, really badly. And so Gordon was like, you're spoiled for choices of who you can send home. Like, he was like, you could basically send anyone home. It's like, yeah, that's pretty much accurate. And then Michael and Shint get nominated, and I already said the fish team, Amber and Magali Sahali, got nominated. But one of the things that I was really upset about was that Magali Sahali, she was trying to take responsibility privately by nominating herself, and they told her to not mention that. But then the captain of the women's team actually mentions that, and I really think that she backstabbed Magali Sahali, and that was totally, totally unfair of her to do that. And then also Magali Sahali made that funny promise, which is, that's not going to last for very long. You know it, and I know it. And Gordon ended up sending home Amber, which I thought, I mean, there were quite a few people who could have really gone home this episode. I was kind of glad that Shint didn't go home, even though he was pretty bad, because he did fix his mistake. He was the risotto guy. He did fix his mistake really fast, and he bounced back after that. So I would give this second episode an A-. I really, really enjoyed this episode. It was a lot of fun. It was funny. I mean, the editors really had a fun time with this episode, because for every single ad break, Gordon was like yelling at someone. You know, so at the end of every block of TV, he would be screaming at someone, and then they would cut to the ads. And I thought that, you know, that's like how a Hell's Kitchen episode should be. Also, I think that the only reason why I'm not giving this episode an A+, and I'm curious to see what other people think and what other people have to say, is that, you know, the sous chefs, you know, Michelle, and then that other guy, I don't know, Kevin, is that his name? The ones that are like the head chefs that have already been on the show before, that are kind of in the middle between the teams and Gordon. We didn't really get to see them bond with the teams at all, or have any sort of like interaction with them. And I kind of felt like that was like kind of weird. You know, like, are they going to have that next episode or something? Like, I just thought that was really weird, because you'd think that those chefs would, like, bond with the teams, right? Like, that they would, you know, and another thing is, like, Michelle, she won her season. She was supposed to be, like, a head chef of wherever. So is she not a head chef anymore? Has she been bumped down? I'm just curious. So anyways, I can't wait for next episode, even though I hate having to do these reviews at like 9 o'clock at night. But please like this video and comment and tell me what you thought of the Hell's Kitchen episode. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest TV show or movie reviews. And also, please do not go see Joker 2. At all. Avoid it like the plague. I'm serious. That movie is so bad. It is gonna be one of the worst movies of the 2020s decade. I have already preemptively put that movie in my list. That is how bad it is. And I'm trying to warn everyone, do not see this movie. Do not go see it. I know that it might look good to you. Do not see it. It is really, really bad. So goodbye, everybody. See you soon for the 1,000 other movie reviews I have to do tomorrow. Bye.